Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of On the Range podcast with Hogg Tactical and Kelley Defense. I am Mark Kelley from KelleyDefense.com, and joined with me, as always, is my co-host and friend from Warhog.com, Rick Hogg. How's it going, pal?
Man, Mark, it's going great. Just want to thank you, the viewer listener out there, for giving us your most precious commodity, your time. Guys, we couldn't do without you. Hey, do us a huge favor. Whatever platform you're listening to, leave us a rating, review, subscribe, especially for our Apple and Spotify listeners. Hey, just swing by, leave us, the old rating review. These are things that will help Apple kind of move us up the ratings. Here's the thing, cost you nothing, just a little bit of your time. It would be greatly appreciated. Since you're out there surfing the interwebs, do us a huge favor, swing by warhog.com, kellydefense.com, sign up for those newsletters. Trust me, we will not inundate you with a bunch of stuff. And if you want to know what we talked about before the show, crew members found out. And they'll find out some added bonus content we have at the end of the show. But the only way to do that is to go to ontherangepodcast.com, sign up for the crew membership, 14-day free trial. And it is just a great group of individuals internationally looking to make themselves 1% better every single day. Bi-monthly Zoom call with me and Mark. I can talk, excuse me. Bi-monthly Zoom call with me and Mark. 100 plus videos. Hey, we're going to Royal Range this weekend. There's going to be some fantastic content coming out of there. You won't want to miss that. But the only way to do that is to become a crew member.
Yeah. Wherever you are, everyone, thank you for making us part of your day, however you are consuming our show today. Make sure that you check out the Firearms Training Notebook, because as always, the Firearms Training Notebook is sponsoring this show. 1% better every day from Warhog Tactical and Kelley Defense. Track your data. If you're not tracking your data and seeing your progression, there's no way you can plan your next range dry fire session, Rick. So make sure you check that out. Great stuff on the crew members. They get a lot of good stuff. They had a ton of stuff today, and they're going to have some stuff afterwards. But the thing that the crew members do see is the behind the scenes stuff. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of fun. The Zoom calls are great, but man, it's a lot of fun. And we were talking about today, being 1% better and getting after it and paying yourself. Just great conversations. But speaking of great conversations, we had one about Jimmy Kimmel and some of the other stuff. Your show yesterday that we put out for the memorial for Charlie Kirk. Great. It's not really on that same seriousness and level, but I think it is a conversation that we need to make, because we kind of called it here in the OTR universe that the stuff with Jimmy Kimmel, whether it was just out of bad taste, bad ratings, because I think majority of it was a business decision, him being pulled or suspended for I think about a week temporarily. It was in poor taste, of course. But the fact of the matter is, it was a perception, especially on the left, that this was strictly a freedom of speech. At least that's what they were throwing out there type issue. Now, I might have surprised some people, and I think you and I agree. We're not hypocrites. We don't necessarily think Jimmy Kimmel should be pulled because of his opinion or his ill-timed or bad jokes. We don't think that. He can say whatever he wants, and ABC can put him on there. But the bottom line is, and we talked about this a bunch, they're not making any money. Their ratings are terrible. I don't know what their ad revenue is, but I know they're losing tens of millions of dollars every year on those late night shows. They are. No one watches. So some of these podcasters, Joe Rogan, even Tim Pool, even someone like him, Megyn Kelly, for sure, I guarantee their ad revenue is more than the Tonight Show with Jimmy Kimmel. I guarantee it. So I think it was a business decision. I want to let the listeners hear what you think about why he was pulled initially.
Yeah. And guys, tell us what you think down in the comments, right? But to me, when you're canceling someone, because part of the whole entertainment broadcast industry, right? It's a business.
Yeah.
So when you sit there and go, hey, we're pulling Jimmy Kimmel, I can't see the books behind the scenes. But at some point, there's got to be something that causes that. Because here's the thing. We live in the greatest country in the world. We, and I say loosely, have freedom of speech, right? We can talk free here. We can talk free to each other. However, some of these other platforms out there on the social side, they moderate speech. They will sit there and go, you can't say this. You can't do that. But as far as the individuals being able to talk back and forth to each other, we'll use Charlie Kirk as a prime example. He's chatting with people face to face, right? You can't stop that. So I didn't look at when they said, "Hey, we're pulling Jimmy." It's like, okay, number one, I don't care. It's your business. Do what you want. But for him to come back so quickly, because let's think about it. If a show doesn't have the ratings or they've ran their series to whatever point and that network decides to pull them, you don't ever see them come back that quick.
No.
So this is where things become suspect. And you're going, what are the behind the scenes with ABC? What pressure are they getting? We've already seen ABC News and how they like to modify the facts. So it just becomes, suspect. So once again, not that I'm a big ABC watcher, nor could I tell you what's even on their channels. Yeah, sorry, dude. It's just like one more check mark, at least for me. Now, here's the
Yeah.
big guys. You can do what you want. I never spent the time to stay up and watch Jimmy. Don't really care about Jimmy. But just from an American standpoint, going, okay, you pulled the show, and then for him to come back
Yeah.
makes you raise an eyebrow. What pressure did ABC get? I don't know. That would be my guess.
Yeah. Well, on the last 30-minute mark, it was audio only. Only the crew members get to see the video for that particular show. But we had talked about this. They've been down this road, Disney has, and Bob Iger. They've been down this road before when they canceled Roseanne Barr.
Yeah.
Roseanne Barr had it was a huge hit on ABC. She makes a tweet on her own time, had nothing to do with the show. They wrote her out of the show and fired her and then dumped a bunch of money. They were killing it with the ratings and the ad revenue on that show. Same thing with Gina Carano and The Mandalorian. That show was taking off. It was the best product that had come out of Disney since they acquired the property of Star Wars from Lucasfilms, and they got rid of her because of something that she did on her own time. Jimmy Kimmel goes out there, and I don't agree with this. He has a joke, and it may have been ill-timed and whatever. They canceled him for it. He's not making any money. So to your point, Rick, why they brought him back when he's not making any money, I think you're right. I think they're getting some pressure from the left. And I don't think it was a business decision. I think initially it was. They thought, hey, man, my man is hemorrhaging money. The affiliates are not going to run him on his show. The two biggest affiliates, it was Nexstar and Sinclair. Sinclair still says they're not going to do it. And this is our opportunity to get rid of him. Maybe there was some reporting that he had directly spoke with Bob Iger and not really face to face, but phone to phone, personally negotiated his return. Maybe he dumped a bunch of cash. But they are losing tens of millions of dollars. So why in the world would a company bring them back when it's probably their worst performing and losing the most money show? And like you said, they're getting some pressure from somewhere. Now, don't forget that one radio or a TV station got shot up in Sacramento just a couple days ago. I mean, when they get threatened, that's a real threat these days.
Yeah. And here's the problem. When you look at all these platforms, I'm going to call them platforms, whether you're a broadcast company, social, whatever, there's a hinge, free speech isn't free. So here's the bottom line. Take the approach. I kind of like how the military does it. When I was active duty, I could not make any type of political statements in my uniform. But what I do is a private citizen. Okay. Right. So it's, why are you going to sit there and go, oh, Roseanne comes out and says whatever. Oh, you don't agree with it.
Right.
And then you cancel. There's so much hypocrisy with all these savages. So you want me to basically embrace the left? No. But then if I do something that goes against your grain, you're going to sit there and cancel, so this, and I don't even like the word cancel culture because it's not even a cancel culture. It's an oppression of your free speech. So I am not, you look at Roseanne's thing, endorsed by ABC. No, Roseanne's going, hey, here was my opinion or my thoughts or doing whatever. And then you're going to sit there and go, bam. You look at, I'll throw YouTube under the bus, right? You savages why are you pulling episodes of On the Range podcast? Right? We have guests on there, not even talking anything firearms, just regular conversation, and you pull shows for what? Um, they don't give you reasons. You try to sit there and all these platforms, right? So same thing with when we got deactivated with IG with Warhog Tactical, the generic, well, you violated terms of service. Well, give me another human being to talk to and tell me what I violated, right? That's like all these platforms, they're like the parents that can't articulate to the kids. Well, I told you so. I told you so. Well, why can't I do that? Because I told you so, right? Screw them, man.
Yeah.
And that's why we're so animate. You guys probably sit there and go, man, you're housekeeping every time. Why go to warhog.com and kellydefense.com? Because we control that, right? Those are our platforms that we control 100%. I can get on there and put whatever I want. We can sit there and fire up an episode of On the Range podcast and say what we want. This is our platform for free speech. If you guys like what you're hearing, the classic, do us that favor, hit that subscribe, rating, review, all those are things that are going to help these guys. And if you're not a fan of the big tech censorship, it helps throw the freaking middle finger to them, right?
Yeah.
Screw them.
Yeah. Totally agree. Before we go any further, just make sure there's one store that's always open and they're never going to cancel anybody. And that's On the Range Podcast Shop. Make sure you go check it out. Some awesome swag, the hats we're wearing right now and some other stuff. We always got a lot of fun, cool things. Go check that out, support the show and get some cool piece of gear. Mm-hmm. But no, I think you're absolutely right, Rick. And they had a reason. My man is not making any money. The ad revenue is awful. A podcast, they could do a podcast and throw, a 1% what they're throwing at. They got like 200 writers on that show.
Yeah.
On a podcast and get more ad revenue. So that's what they should have done. Should have taken him off and left him off monetarily wise. But I don't support, anybody just, ripping him off because they set off the show because they said that, what he was saying about the free speech stuff. Hey man, that's up to you. I don't agree with that. But if you have a monetary reason, why are we coming back? So the reason I think, and we talked about this pre-production, dude, Charlie Kirk was assassinated for just speaking embracing his free speech. That's all he was doing, having conversations on college campuses. Was shot and assassinated on a college campus. You don't think that if these guys, especially, podcasters or whatever are receiving death threats, you don't think someone like Bob Iger at ABC for ripping him off of the channels, you don't think they're receiving death threats? Heck, my man shot up the radio station outside of Sacramento. Mm-hmm. I think that could have something to do with it. I don't know for sure, but if they're willing to do that, why wouldn't they do it again? They're acting out and being violent and threatens of violent. Why wouldn't they do it?
Yeah. And you bring up a great point, Mark, right? This whole violence culture.
Yeah.
If you look at the violence culture, it's only on one side.
Yep.
So you think about Charlie being murdered. And I'm going to say this for all you savages that embraced Charlie's murder, man, you better get your head screwed on straight. Because what would happen if your son, brother, father got murdered? You're going to sit there and do cartwheels? It just doesn't comprehend another human being celebrating another one's death. Now, when we got UBL, hey, I got it. Okay, all good. But he was a true savage, killed, thousands of Americans.
Yeah.
That you can support. But another American expressing their right to free speech, having great conversations with people that, oh, by the way, these incubators for leftist thoughts or all these universities are, he's just going to the belly of the beast, having conversations with these kids. Because these kids are the next generation. Why not just have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
But I can't, even on the free speech, yeah, you got the right to say it. But you know what? Man, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
That's my thing. What is wrong with you embracing another human being's murder?
Yeah.
But there was, you had some of these lefties going, oh, podcasters, we're coming for you. We're going to get you. Why? Because you can't have a conversation. If I were to ask you what a woman is, you would sit there and go, what's it matter? Right? Oh, you can pick whatever. Like their arguments don't stand. But the left has always been about having some type of violence. Let's think about this. Charlie Kirk gets murdered. How many protests did you see? How many towns got burnt? How many riots were going on? Not a one.
Yeah.
Right? You had visuals come together. You watched his memorial, which I don't even dub it a memorial. It was more like a revival, right?
Yeah.
You've got people more invigorated to embrace their Christian faith, be open about it. Man, it's just amazing to watch the two sides and you go, how are we so divided? How do we let this crazy thoughts even come into your mind to embrace another man that was straight up murdered
Yeah.
and go, yeah, good for it? No, we need to have hard conversations. Hey, man, if your view is this, great. Let's talk about it. And we can agree to disagree. You can be entitled to your opinion. I can be entitled to mine.
Yeah. So,
But the
even if,
conversation, Mark, that's the key part.
well, that's what I was just going to say. Even if we agree or disagree that this revelation of Jimmy Kimmel being put back on, however that occurred, and that it could or could not have been violence, I think you're right. That's the conversation. Why is it like that? And is there anything we can do about it? I don't know. But at the same time, whether it's, violence against the individuals, because, these type of CEOs and some of these influencers who are out there with a large following, they are going to get that type of stuff anyway. But if you're like, hey man, I can't have these guys shooting up my affiliates owned stations. You know what I mean? What can we do to stop this? I don't know if that was the right decision to put him back on, but you could see how it could happen when the monetary side just doesn't make sense to have him back on the air.
Yeah. And I understand, the safety of the affiliates, but do they even really care?
Well,
You know?
I mean, I don't know, but Sinclair and Nexstar, they seem to have cared what Jimmy was saying. But like you said, does ABC really care? I don't think so.
I mean, ABC, if you listen to that network, there's some absolute garbage that gets spewed out of that place.
Well, the Tonight Show's like that. No one watches.
Well, I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you what even
Yeah.
Jimmy talks about, right? Because don't care. I'm not going to sit there and put the effort forward. A couple times I've seen ABC News garbage, right? Like it's all twisting crap.
It's terrible.
They'll take sound bites from here, cut out important stuff, make people sound bad, right? That's not journalism. That's manipulation. That's propaganda. And that's why it's like you see so many of these politicians going, hey, I want it live. No, we're not recording nothing. Hit that live button because you can't stop the real words coming out. You can't manipulate it, doctor it, do all that. But getting back to the whole premise of it, I don't know that we'll ever know. Maybe something might leak down the road, what the pressure was. But what I would want to see across the board is how do we get more engaging? Left, right, center doesn't matter, to have conversations to go, okay, why are you embracing this man's death? And they're going to throw you the classic, oh, he was a savage and a racist and all this other stuff. Okay, show me the receipts. Where do you get this? Or even what's a fascist, right? They're not going to be able to tell you. Then it's just pop, pop, pop. So it's really you're entitled to whatever opinion you want, but it's really the uneducated spouting hate that isn't going to move your cause anymore for what you want. So, I don't know, man. It is, if you base everything, if you're running a broadcast company, it should be based on, hey, man, is this show bringing the dollars in? If it's not, fine. If you start, do they give them left and right limits? I don't know. Hey, man, this is off limits. That's not. Who knows, right? You don't know what's in the contracts. You don't have all the behind the scenes stuff. But to me, it's a straight up, should be business deal. You're not
Well,
making money. The ratings aren't there. Sorry.
yeah, they probably don't give him any left or right limits. And if they did, you think they say, hey man, we need to pull this back a little bit so your ratings go up. That conversation, you would think, has had to have happened. It has to. What are you comparing it to justify spending all that money on that show? I have no idea. But here's another to pivot just a little bit on
Mhm.
the other side. When they initially pulled him off, do you think they were afraid of maybe having repercussions from the right side, like we got a Bud Light situation or a Target situation? Um, if that's the case, I don't think it would have happened without that leverage from Nexstar and from Sinclair, the owners of all those affiliates. Because
Yeah.
some of these guys are merging and stuff. And here's another thing: Disney, and we talked about this. Disney's got a big merger coming up where they're trying to buy some more NFL properties,
Mhm.
and maybe they were scared about that. But if that's the case, then why would they put him back on? I don't know. I think something different has to have happened. Whether or not they just want to honor his contract and get him back on there, but they cut his salary. I don't even think that happened. I don't know, but something had to have happened to throw him back on there because it would have been better if they'd have put something else on TV. Someone
Mhm.
would have watched it. I think he's going to get a big influx of views this next week to see what he says.
Sure.
But then everybody's just going to go back. Man, this show's terrible. If it stays the same, it's terrible. It's not going to come back. He cannot. He's so far to the left, Rick, that he can't come back. He
No.
can't come back.
No, there's no way he will, but you would think that they're doing some type of analytics on their viewership and going, "Hey Jimmy, you had guests A, B, and C on. You got a 10% bump in views, right?
Yeah,
You had Schmuckles, you know, X, Y, and Z on. Hey, your ratings dumped 10%, right? There's got to be something where you would think they would look at the numbers to look back at the show and go, all right, what's causing the boosts? Are we getting the numbers? Are we losing the numbers? Hey, did he say something stupid that dumped things down? Or at that point, things shut off? Because I'm pretty sure they can pull, hey, somebody was watching it for 15 minutes and all of a sudden
oh
at
yeah,
point
yeah.
X,
Hmm.
20,000 viewers bailed. Well, why'd they bail? Right. So I just find it hard to believe this day and age with all the analytical tools out there that they're not deep diving. And then when you sit there and go, hey, pulling you off the show, okay. And usually it's a slow trickle, right? Um, you look at other shows, it's like, hey, so and so will be replaced next week with so and so. But just to do a
Yeah,
yank the rug out, like all these things are just they're suspect.
yeah.
So I don't
Yeah, it
know.
takes a while. It takes a while for those Nielsen ratings to come out. But I know
Mhm.
that when Steve Colbert announced that they weren't going to renew his contract, he had a huge boon in his ratings for that period, right thereafter. But I think he was already like the number one guy, and they pulled him. I think Jimmy might have been two. I don't know, but I think he'll get some kind of an influx of some views because of this stuff. But I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, at the first time, since Biden had been in the office, the Bud Light thing came out and some of the Target stuff, and I think conservative side of folks started thinking, well, we can affect this because I don't think Bud Light's ever come back.
No,
I thought they might. I don't think they've ever come back, and
that's a hard,
that's a hard sell, man.
that's a potentially next generation, barring that next generation hasn't been so educated by this generation that they're like, yeah, it's like, sorry. Um, but it all goes back to this. You're running businesses. Why are you catering to the super minority?
I don't know.
That's the part. Let's think about it. Warhawk Tactical Kelley Defense on the Range podcast. When all these things started up, we weren't it was a very loose political religious talk, right? Because the classic, hey, I don't want to alienate any potential customers. I'll tell you straight up from my standpoint, with Charlie being murdered and watching that, I'm throwing it out there, right? Um, I got zero dramas talking faith. I got zero dramas talking politics, right? Probably more deep dive into it now because it's even more relevant. But if you're a multi-million billion dollar company, why are you going to cut your own throat for what? Okay. You're going to embrace this trans culture, which is what, less than 1% of 1% of the population. And then you're just alienating yourself and cutting your own business throat.
Well,
That
if
just
that
doesn't.
1%, if that 1% is the most violent and the most, I mean, that makes sense to me. I think that makes sense to everybody. He Nexstar is said they're going to put him back on. I
Mhm.
wonder if Nexstar owned that affiliate or that station that was shot up. That is something that will make you respond because you care about your people.
Sure.
I mean, that makes sense to me, and I ought to do some more investigating. But political violence, man, that's what everybody keeps saying they don't want more of, but we
Mhm.
always see it from the left side. And let's lower the temperature. And dude, there's no temperature being lowered. This stuff needs to stop. This violent stuff
It
needs to stop, and people need to keep saying it. They
it
don't want to be
won't.
associated with that either. That's a real problem for the left.
Well, that's the thing. That's all they have.
Yeah,
They don't have anything else in the toolbox. And
yeah,
and again, I'll keep going back to Charlie because I don't I don't think we realized while he was alive the impact that he was having. I think we really saw it after he was murdered, how much he was doing. But then when you look at the left and you go, what are you guys doing? The only thing they can do is violence. The only thing they can do is riot. It's
yeah,
like, why would you burn your own city? What is that doing for you? The very businesses in there, burning them down. It's like this rationale, this thought process does not compute. So it comes right back to go, why can't we have these conversations? I mean, the left is so radicalized, and I'll just call it what it is. They're mentally ill in the things they're doing, saying uh, that, hey, take a step back. And I keep going back to the embracing a murder. Really?
yeah.
That's what you think?
Well,
How sick and twisted is that?
I know. Well, I think their answer is to continue the violence until the other side, being the right side of the aisle, backs down. That's their idea of lowering the temperature. Keep putting the pressure on, keep doing these acts of violence so that the right lowers the temperature. No, that's not the way it's going to work.
No, that if anything,
It's going to make it worse
well,
for
it's not
them.
going to make it's not going to make it worse because I think what you're going to see, and again, we're still relatively short time from Charlie being killed, but you're seeing this bigger shift to the right. You're seeing this bigger shift towards God. You're
Yeah.
seeing this bigger shift of people going, "What are you like?" It's almost like the scales are being pulled off of people's eyes that were on the left, going, "Yeah, I don't agree with this."
Right.
Right? I drank the Kool-Aid for this amount of time because you were buying the lies. Now you're starting to see this major shift to the right, and I think that's what's going to end up. The left is going to be left, if you want to say what the radical left is going to be left with minimal numbers. And
And that's what I mean by saying worse. It's going to
yeah,
be more of a rush towards the middle or towards the right because it
yeah,
just makes sense to, hey, we need to have conversations. We
mm,
don't want Jimmy Kimmel pulled off the air for saying whatever he wanted to say.
yeah,
I mean, you pulling him off because he's losing tens of millions of dollars. Okay, that makes
I,
sense.
100%. Yeah,
Right. So we'll see what happens. But I think, like you said, it's just going to continue to drift people to the center. I'm not
hmm
down with this, man. We can't burn
no,
down cities. We can't shoot up places. We can't, assassinate individuals because of what they're saying. It just doesn't make any sense.
no,
Words.
yeah, and at the end of the day, no matter how many paid actors Soros is trying to get out there,
Right.
the pool's going to dry up
Yeah.
because people are going to be like, yeah, no, not going to happen.
It's not going
So
to happen.
no, so I think as much of a tragedy as Charlie Kirk being murdered was, the repercussions to us as a society, I think, is going to be unprecedented. Right? Going back to the whole turning point, that was the turning point, and I think it's the point where people are going, we can't do this anymore. Those that have had some type of normalized thought process, not those that have been fully indoctrinated into this radical left, they're like, no. no more.
Yeah.
And, you know, hopefully what you start seeing is those hard conversations. I think what we'll see, the proof in the pudding will be this. When you start going out to restaurants and you see phones in pockets sitting on the table and conversations with families being reinvigorated. When we start seeing that is the norm, that to me is going to be, hey man, we're getting things accomplished.
Yeah.
Because that still has to be the conversation at the core family level is where it needs to start, and then it just grows from there.
Yeah. And I hope you're right, because I think that would be great. That'd be a great legacy. And I know that the memberships to the Turning Point and those kind of charters and stuff have gone up. So I think it's turning towards that way. But man, what a loss! What a loss for sure. And we'll see if Bob Iger wants to continue to lose money on Jimmy Kimmel. Hey man, knock yourself out. Knock yourself
Yeah.
out. Let him say whatever he wants. But I don't think his contract is going to be renewed this next year. If it does, I'll be shocked. I mean, because I've pretty much given up on the products and the IPs that are coming out of Disney. It's just awful. The theme parks are keeping that thing alive. So nothing really surprises me when it comes to business. But I really believe the screws are being put to them, and I think they're afraid. And you know what? They should be. I think the threat is real.
Yeah.
So anyway, folks, crew members are going to be standing by because they know they get some stuff at the end of the show. But make sure you go to On the Range Podcast and check out the crew membership. You can try it for free, the all access package. You get the Zoom calls with Rick and I. You get the training catalogs, and you get the behind the scenes stuff, which is a lot of fun. We had almost 20 some minutes of content, bonus content just for them prior to this show.
Yeah.
And if you like this content, that's the place to be. So make sure you check it out. Again, go to ontherangepodcast.com because the crew members will be there, because the show always continues, Rick, on the crew members page.
And for the rest of you guys, don't forget, train hard, stay safe, and we'll see you on the range.